All right, welcome back. Welcome back, everyone, to this second session on policy design. And here in this session, we are going to look at a very interesting tool to design better policies, is strategic foresight. So we're gonna have a look at how to have great strategic foresight in your different regions. So welcome again. For those who were not present in the last session, my name is Arno Morrison. I'm one of the thematic experts for Smarter Europe at the Policy Learning Platform. And I'm going to co-moderate this session with Torsten here, that you met this morning, our lead manager at the Policy Learning Platform. And you can see around maybe Laura and Mark are around as well. So welcome from our side. Here we all know the policy life cycle, the design phase, this first phase where you have to have an agenda setting, you need to formulate the policy, and you need to take specific decisions regarding those. Strategic foresight can be a great tool here to anticipate future challenges. In this session, we are going to try to understand why use strategic foresight in policy design. Well, for me, strategic foresight is a very important tool. I mean, this previous session, we talked about using this mission approach to address societal challenges, very concrete and place-based societal challenges. Strategic foresight can do just that. Start thinking in the long run, in the long term, to anticipate those future societal challenges. It's also a great way to engage different stakeholders, citizens also in the policy design. So those are my two insights on why use strategic foresight in policy design. Before we start with our presenter, we have a few questions for you on Slido. So please, everyone, I want you to tell us, are you using strategic foresight in your regions in order to design policies? I think it's quite a new tool. Some regions are starting to use strategic foresight as a method to design policies. Last year, when we were in Antwerp, exactly. Yes, this is what you were going to say, Torsten?
Exactly. I remember we had the final keynote speech from Flanders on strategic foresight.
Exactly. Last year, we had the minister from Flanders talking about how they were using strategic foresight in their policies. So we see, that's great. We see quite a few people using foresight to design policies, and we have don't know, and we have some no, but like more than half are using foresight or some sort of foresight exercise to design policies. So you can tell us a little bit more for those who are using strategic foresight. Maybe you can share an example in a few words, or how you have been using and applied strategic foresight. That would be very interesting to know. Have you been using it, applied strategic foresight in your region? So we have few participants typing. We also had a very nice webinar on this topic of strategic foresight. Was a few months ago, but it was not only looking at strategic foresight, but also about participatory foresight, which is another methods to engage the citizens into those foresight exercise, because foresight is often used with experts. Here it was about bringing citizens together to design policies. So we had a few no apply methods. Okay, upper regional stress tests. What happens with heavy rainfall? That's interesting. Labor markets, that's a key way of using strategic foresight. And this is what we are going to see with Alesh here. Design strategy for city centers, working on light pollution issues, coastal insights for the future of coastal areas. Smart specialization, yes. Smart specialization can be a great way to look at strategic foresight, how to use strategic foresight for smart specialization strategy. So thanks so much for that. And we are very lucky to have for this session someone from Slovenia, Aleš Anšik. I hope I pronounce this okay.
It's okay, yeah.
It's okay, that's good. From the Slovenian Tool and I Development Center in Slovenia. So in Slovenia, they have many interesting good practices as well, using strategic foresights. We are going to have a look at the future key skills and competence for Industry 4.0, this good practice that Aleš is going to explain better. But also they have something that I find very interesting, is this concept of strategic research and innovation partnerships. So they have created those type of partnerships to discuss their S3 priorities. So in each of the priorities, they have a sort of association bringing public actors, private companies, universities, kind of a triple helix actors to work to start thinking about roadmap for their smart specialization strategy, and also using strategic foresight to think about the future. The policy learning platform can help you. We have many good practices and resources on this topic of strategic foresight. We wrote very recently a very nice policy brief on interregional complementarities for innovation. So using a strategic approach to find the right regions to collaborate with, to have the highest complementary assets. We had a very nice webinar that I explained on strategic and participatory foresight. And we also did a very nice peer review in East Flanders on smart specialization, looking at this multi-level perspective, where one of the key recommendations was using strategic foresight for the region. In the webinar that we had many good speakers, one from the ECD and one from the GRC, the Joint Research Center, and they gave many insights on how to use strategic foresight. Here, it was Katarina from the OECD telling us about how to use foresight in policy making. It's about first anticipating and adapting to change. It's a good way to improve decision making. It's about fostering collaboration and engagement with stakeholders and citizens. And it's at the end, it's all about supporting the local transformation process. What is very important to know about strategic foresight, you have to see it as a structured and systematic approach for thinking about the future avenues. And it's all about anticipating and preparing for changes. So it explores different avenues of the future, different possible futures and opportunities and obstacles they might bring. And here, with those insights, the end goal is really to improve decision making and taking actions for the future. We had a very nice policy brief, and I'm very happy because I did that. You can see it's very nice. And it's about where to find the highest interregional complementarities. There are ways to do it. The key recommendations in this policy brief is to really think strategically when you think about interregional complementarities. And this is where strategic foresight can fit into finding the right complementarities and the right regions to collaborate with. So it's about finding complementarities in the funding, but also in the knowledge. And that's the ideal scenario, is you have the greatest access to complementary knowledge, but also the highest access to complementary fundings. So it's about, when we speak about interregional complementarities, it's involve regions creating those connections with others that possess complementarity. expertise and enabling them to leverage each other resources and capabilities in a specific segment of value chains as aligned with their F3 priorities. So that's the overall introduction, but now we can go into the presentation of this very interesting good practice. Aleš, the floor is yours, and you have 15 minutes for 20 minutes for your presentation.
I'm Aleš Hancic. Thank you for kind introduction. I'm coming from TICO, Slovenian Tool and Die Development Center, and we are very much involved in the policy making of Slovenia and transfer innovation and knowledge to the companies. So Slovenia is very peculiar economy. It started 35 years ago after the collapse of after independence. The big conglomerates have fallen, they went bankrupt, and actually the Slovenian companies are mainly presided from the SMEs, because big companies, they have went bankrupt, and even 98% of companies in Slovenia is SMEs, and they're growing faster, they're working very hard, they're very successful, but nevertheless they're very much in different fields, and it's very hard to make a cohesive policy how to help them grow, how to help them innovate, and how to help them to grow in the right way to compete on the global market. So Slovenia started in 2015. They started first to prepare their smart specialization strategy, and it was very hard to pick one area where we are excelling, because small and medium companies, they excel on so many different fields. So we started to really pick what are those fields that we want to help companies. So we have decided that because our ecosystem is so fragmented, we decided to have 10 really important areas that we will drive the excellence forward. It's from mobility to factors of the future, materials, sustainable production, smart buildings, smart cities, health, medicines, ICT, and also tourism. So all these areas are very important for us, and we have decided which one are they, we have defined them, and then we had to decide how to help them. And from this area, we decided that we will establish special SRIPs. These are special innovation and strategic partnerships that through them we will try to help them to bring the new innovation, the new opportunities, the new knowledge to the companies, and especially bring companies together to build new innovation chains, new value chains, to help them to bring the new products to the market. We are the part of the biggest SRIP in Slovenia, so biggest strategic and innovation partnership of factories of the future, where it's more than 120 companies brought together, from big companies to medium companies to micro companies, and also from public entities, from governmental to the educational to the research entities and institutes. We have defined several fields that are the most important for the Slovenian industry, and we try to excel in them. We have lucky that in Slovenia we have very high culture of production and industry. Currently we are number 2 in number of robots in Slovenia, and so we defined these special pillars that are inside, that through them we can then help the industry to excel. So it's industry management systems, it's robotics, it's automatization, it's transition to Industry 4.0, it's human resources, and it's education and research. And through this, we try to help the companies to grow, to find new opportunities, and to find new knowledge, to learn and to build new capacities, and to bring new capacities to the market. So what are we doing? We are basically doing and checking and trying to build future key skills and competences for Industry 4.0. We are going through several stages. It's basically a triple helix of public entities, of private entities, and governmental entities working together to help the companies to get this new knowledge that they really need, that they strive for, and that they can use in their field. So the most biggest problems that we have always defined, and we had the most biggest obstacles that we have ever found, is that in SMEs they usually don't have the competencies and they don't have the people to take new knowledge. They're usually overwhelmed with day-to-day work, with day-to-day priorities, and they don't have the time to learn and to incorporate these new advances that are really coming daily to the industry. So they are really always striving behind one or two steps behind the leaders in their field. So they are just watching, they are observing, and then they incorporate in their production, but they are not the leaders. So here we came with SRIP, with our institutions, and through the networking, through the education, through the common events, through the research projects, through the financing, we tried, and we are quite successful, I might say, to bring the new advantages to the companies where it's needed the most. So what are we doing? These companies, we are trying to educate them. We are trying to define the biggest needs that they have. We're trying to give them support, planning, and through implementation, trying to define the core needs and core values that they need. So it's through the specialists, it's through the engineers, it's through the new definitions of university programs and so on. We try to bring them the education and the knowledge that they always need. So it's like we have designed like ICT specialists that they can obtain in their companies. We have specialists for automatization, for automatization, like new engineers like robotics engineer, machine vision engineer, automation specialist, Industry 4.0 metrologist, human developer, and so on. So it's really new competences that we want to bring to the companies, and we want to tell them that they really have to bring this new knowledge, so this Industry 4.0 to their through their companies. It's usually through best practices, through the examples, through learning, and of course we try to involve them also into the research projects when they can get financing for their research and for the implementation of new practices. So future work, what do we want to do, is basically build competences that can help these SMEs, these professional domain-specific competences that can build their companies and help them and enable to produce new products and to produce new processes as efficient as possible, as sustainable as possible, as green as possible. So this is our goal, and we're doing this from interpersonal competencies like emotion, communication, skills, leadership competencies, personal competences, creativity, critical thinking, decision making, embracing change. This is really the most important, to be open for the new change and to help them to active learning and to growth mindset. So all this all together that we can brought together, then really, and trying to channel this through the companies, especially small and medium companies. This is our goal, to help them to really be persistent and to grow on this global market. So this is, I would say, quick introduction from my side. So I'm open now for questions and answers.
Thanks so much. Thank you so much, Alesh. That was really great. Thanks so much for sharing this good practice and how you've been using strategic foresight in finding the right skills for SMEs. at the policy learning platform, so we have this good practice database, and we have many good practices on how to support SME access new knowledge. I'm thinking of many good practices on top of my head that relates to what you were doing. There is something in Romania, a good practice, which is innovation audits, looking at SMEs, trying to support them through finding the right skills that they will need in the future, bringing some experts, supporting them to write a specific roadmap for the future. In Slovakia, they were doing something very similar to what you were doing, so using strategic foresight to really understand what skills were needed in the future in these huge industrial sectors. And I'm also thinking about this good practice from Biel, Bien, which is the Switzerland Innovation Park, where they bring SMEs to look at different Industry 4.0 technologies and helping them to diffuse those technologies into the SMEs so they can go there. It's kind of a center of competence where SMEs can use some specific robots, automation, and to see how they can use those technologies into their work. So many good practices related to SMEs. But I've got a few questions for you, Alex, regarding strategic foresight. And I think we can also give you the floor. So if you have any questions, raise your hand, and there is this mic here, and we can bring the mic to you. My first questions, yeah, and then we can go to you. So my first question is really, how do you ensure that those strategic foresight exercise are used by policymakers and are translated into very concrete policy actions?
Well, this is the hardest part. So the most important is the involvement of triple helix. So you have also policymakers always involved into the making and preparing of all the programs, all the curriculums and everything that is needed, so they can then endorse, let's say, at the ministry or at higher level, so at the government. So this if you just prepare something and it doesn't hold up in practice, then they will not endorse it. So you make the program, you try it in practice, and then you try to endorse it so it goes to the policy making, and they are endorsing also with financing. Because if you don't, at the end, if you don't have financing, companies will slowly, because they're always overwhelmed with the current work, will slowly lose interest. So they will go there and here and so on, but to really be involved, at least some sort of financing, let's say for education, for seminars or something, is important. So it has to be involved from all three helixes to have this kind of involvement. And to show them, it's always to have, it's need to have the results in the company. So the company says, this really helped us, this is really helped us, this is a good example, and then they can endorse it further. Yeah.
Mm. All right, we take questions from... There was one question here, and please do not hesitate to raise your hand and ask questions.
Thank you very much for the presentation. It was very interesting. I have two questions, more from the practical point of view. Which kind of activities, because you said that you really focus on knowledge, so knowledge transfer. So which kind of activities did you organize specifically, like for focus groups or online training activities? And also, which kind of funding did you use, local ones or European ones?
Well, all kind of funding, but the activities, the main activities that we have taken is first is networking with very specialized and targeted networking. It's not just event, but that you enable meetings in the events, and then to enable that, let's say, the right people come to right people that they can talk. So the right people from education, from companies, from policy making, that they came together. So this is very important. The others is seminars. They can be online, but most of them is if it can be, they are in person. And we can range from one-day seminars on very important topics like, I don't know, how to better your processing, so how to involve robots in your process and so on. So they can be daily seminars, but also we have let's say 3 months courses that you obtain real qualifications, so that you are marked and you get some kind of diploma that you're now a specialist in this kind of production. So this is very important, and these diplomas, they are officially recognized from the government. So you can take that from this job to the next job and say, okay, I am IT engineer, or I am operator of this kind of machines, and so on. This was very important, and it was also very important for the companies because of lack of resources. Sometimes they have to transfer from one field to another field, so personnel. So if we go to the basic, let's say shop machine operators, there's not enough of skilled work floor shop workers, so they came, let's say, from hairdresser school, they come to the factory, they say, I will work there, and then you can enable them with 3-month course to get official diploma that I'm machine operator, or I'm officially IT server operator, or something like that, or robot operator, or designer, or something. You are engineer in this field, but you can get something like other skills that are officially recognized. So this is also very important to make.
All right. Thanks for your question.
Yeah.
And thanks, Alesh, for your answer. Any other questions from participants? If any.
Don't be shy. We are among us.
All right. Otherwise, Thorsten, you always have good questions to ask.
Well, let us see if the question is good. But indeed, when listening to your presentation, thank you. Very valuable insights. Indeed, the question popping up in my head, you spoke about the relevance of the different actors. They all have to participate in the exercises. Did you see any strategic effects? For instance, companies working with schools, with VET schools or universities of applied sciences. Yeah. So new ways of working, those strategic foresight exercises triggering new ways of working, maybe more systematic strategic ways of working between the different players, stakeholders?
Actually, the most I would say important thing is, like, we had two companies on very similar field, and they were always competing. Yeah, they always try to outrun the other, and they were very secretive. They didn't cooperate anything. Mm-hmm. They didn't even talk with other because they were almost neighbors and so on. So if you are a young company, you shouldn't talk with another company. We brought them into the strips. We talked with them, and they start to talk with them. Now it's 7 years after the establishment of SWIT. They're cooperating together on common research projects, and they are applying for European or national funds together always. They have common research teams, and they know each other very well. And from that point, they have grown significantly. It's not, of course, only because of it, but their growth was significantly. So we opened this closeness that companies try to close them, and we open them. And even if you meet, once a month or once every 2 months together, so CEOs, they come together and they talk this, and then engineers, they come to talk. This opens and new ideas go forward. So these are the very important things, and this is one good example that we try to show everybody. So this is this, and of course this education that are running, working with high schools and similar together. These are also very good examples. Yeah.
Inspiring, huh?
Yes.
I think, yes. Thank you.
Thank Thorsten. Thank Alesh for your answers.
Thank you. Thank you.
And also going back to the previous, I mean, it reminds me to Luc was saying on regional mission. He started this process of engaging stakeholders to collaborate and owning the challenge and the policy. And I see a lot of links to be made also between how to use strategic foresight in this defining the societal challenges to address, anticipate changes. It can be at the skill level, but it can be also trying to address specific concrete place-based challenge. So that's why I think that using strategic foresight or some sort of scenario planning, looking at megatrends and so on is so important. Tomorrow, actually, we are going to have a nice session on AI. artificial intelligence and how to use it at the local level. And we've seen that AI is disrupting the way we work. It's such a game changer in a few years. And I was just wondering, sometimes we have those big disruptive elements. So all those type of disruptive technology change the way you looked at the strategic foresight you've done in the past? How can you revise and redefine rapidly in these big changes that we are facing now in work?
Well, this is $1 million question. How can you follow these changes so quick? As I said, especially, well, big companies, they have their own research centers. They have their people who are just there to implement all these new changes inside of their production. It's very problematic for small companies. Usually small companies, they're 15 people, it's the director and the owner in one person, then they have one engineer who is for everything, and others are shop floors. And in this environment, everybody are overbooked on 150%. It's very hard for them to have any time to look for these breakthrough technologies and also to implement them, because if it's running, it's not broken. But they sometimes don't see that somebody, let's say from other countries, especially China, they can overrun them. They are getting ahead very quickly, and how to change this mindset, it's very problematic. So it's very important to get them involved, to show them constantly what others are doing, show them, look, they are doing this way, try this, that company, that they have reduced their costs for 10%, they have reduced their time for 15%, and so on. So always showing them. They know a lot. You cannot teach them somebody who is working this 50 years, because they know much more about that process than you do. You can just show them what others are doing, and then they can get the idea how to implement it. Forget that you show them something to do better because they're doing this for 20, 30, 40 years. But they can get new ideas, and trying to help them and help them to get the financing to implement this is the very important. Yeah.
All right, thanks, Alej. Any questions from the floor? I've got one last question, and then we have a nice Slido to ask you some key takeaways from this session.
There's one question.
There is a question here. Yes, please.
Thank you. I would like to go back to the first presentation concerning the general idea of the foresight. And my question is, because we know that within this process, besides the building scenarios, a very important part is to think about the trends. So trends, identification, analysis of the main trends. Do you have any experience how it should be organized within the policy designing methods, within the policy designing? So how identification of the main trends, how should be organized in this process?
Thanks for your question. Do you want to?
No, it's with the policy designers is always, as my experience, but this is nothing bad, but they're expert in their field, but they're not technological experts. And it's really this cooperation with technological, because they have one mindset, and the politicians, or those who are not politicians, but those who are on a lower level that are preparing these strategies, they have their own mindset. And to put these two mindsets together is very hard. And the first is the readiness to cooperate. This is the most important. So to get them together and getting to talk and trying to get this idea what needs to be done to transfer to the policymakers. So this is first to the lower level, then it's transferred to the higher level. And you go from the bottom up always. If it comes from the top down, it's usually not good enough, because usually those on the top, they don't have experience with real-time industry, real-time production, or any kind other fields that they are there. So it's they can quickly fall into the trap of something that sounds very good, but it's really not feasible in the real time. So you really have to transfer them what is really going to work and what is technically possible. Yeah. This is the problem, and you really have to work very, very hard to get this upwards. Yeah.
Thanks for that. And Just to add on that, we had the webinar on strategic and participatory foresight that I recommend you to watch. You can find the recordings online. And in this webinar, we had speakers from the GRC. We had Christian Matti, who is working very much on this topic of strategic foresight. And we had Katarina Skampi-Stankova, I think, from the OECD, also working to use those strategic foresight methodology at the local level. Well, it's from the discussions that we had, it's quite complex. And you really need to have experts in strategic foresight working with you and helping you developing the right tools and the methodology to use. Because you can have many different tools. You have the Center of Competence at the EU level on strategic foresight. I mean, you can think of scenario planning. You have like looking at trend analysis. There is also looking at backcasting, so what future you really want, working with different stakeholders. So it's a complex methods in the policy design, and working with specific experts that you can find at GRC in the OECD can really be beneficial for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe still one question to you, Hans, a bit related to the previous question and the complexity you describe. So you already mentioned the risk of applying those exercises top down. You know, on the platform we are saying, okay, you learn from good practices, from practice-proven solutions, but we know from life the most you may learn from failure and what you have learned from failure. So you have colleagues here maybe considering such strategic foresight exercises in their cities, in their regions. What would be your advice? Either what they should definitely pay attention to or what they should avoid? So any learning from your experience so far?
Well, it's the main thing is to get the companies interesting. This is the most difficult thing that you will see, that you will get the companies first to cooperate. Because usually when you're doing these things, you don't have the full finances to do everything. So the companies will have to be involved in some small manner to pay for these activities, and really to get them something that is interesting for them. This is the hardest part. So you really have to have experts that they know what they need, and to prepare the programs that companies need. Not that you think that they need, but the things that the companies really need. So this is the most important thing, is to prepare such not just events, but the networking, the learning, the common trips, going to the fairs together, getting to know each other, getting experts from abroad to talk to these events, or to go to the individual companies, visit between companies, and so on. So you really have to know that companies want that, and you will really have to be active to talk not just broadly to them, but individually to each company. So if you have 100 members, you will have to get used to talk, and you will have to persuade each one of them, of these 100 members, to participate. Sending email to 1,000 addresses, if you get one answer, it will be a lot. Calling and going to the companies, you will get 90% of answers. So this is the real thing. So you have to be involved. There's no easy way. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Torsten. Thanks, Alej. Yeah, Luc, you have a question?
Yes, thank you. I know a question, partially comment. You already mentioned, I know, similarities in approaches between what you do in Slovenia and we, and what I hear from you, and if I relate it to my region, is in working with SMEs. I think we put a lot of effort, and I see you do as well, in getting to know our SMEs, kind of to categorize them. Who are the front runners, who don't need much support, who are already managing themselves, but we focus especially on the groups just below those front runners, who have some intentions and their willingness, but they don't know how, and they, like you said, they are busy daily affairs. And I also hear from you, especially in your last answer, is that it's not only you doing the work. A lot of what you do, I will hear from you, and just correct me if I'm wrong, is you connect companies to other companies, and we do that as well, especially with these companies, maybe a little bit higher up, and we use a pyramid.
Yeah.
So who are a little bit ahead of the companies you're actually targeting. So they can use them as an example or whatever, because they're probably willing to learn more from them than from me, or I don't know about you. You are good, but you know.
Yeah.
Is it true? Is it?
Yeah, it's usual to have. It's good idea to have a beacon companies. So the companies that will draw other companies to the network. So let's say you have 5 beacon companies, and they will say, "Oh, those have joined. So yeah, I will go also there." So they will be there. It's good to talk with them and so on. Maybe some new business opportunity will come up or something. So yeah, it's really, as you said, to have a little bit higher companies and lower tier levels will come, because they will see also business opportunities, not just learning, but also business opportunities, and they can draw companies to make the first contact and to make the first step. Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much, Luc, and thanks so much, every participants, for being here with us.
Yeah. Thank you.
We have a last Slido before we close this session, is to ask you, what is your key takeaway from this session? I mean, my key takeaway was really strategic foresight can be used to engage, build trust with different stakeholders, with SME in your case, and connect SMEs together. What's your key takeaway, Torsten?
Well, the first takeaway, I think, is the importance of investing in strategic foresights. I mean, we live in times of game-changing and disruptive developments. We have to accept the reality. Would be great to have this magic glass bowl, right, which would predict the future. We will not have such glass bowl, but at least we can search for directionality. And I learned from today, okay, strategic foresights, if designed well, and I think some lessons we heard from you from the discussion, can help local and regional authorities better navigating through the sea of uncertainties these days.
Yeah. Thanks, Torsten. And indeed, key takeaway, cooperation is a big one. Yeah, understanding the needs of companies is key, and this was a very good example that you provided, Aleš. Need expertise. Yes, this was from the webinar that we had on strategic foresight. Always work with specific experts on this topic, because it's very important to get the right expertise when you do such a complex exercise. Improve awareness of benefits, bottom-up approach, to engage companies and interactions. Yes, very good insight. Thanks so much for all you key takeaways. Participants, thanks so much for being here. Thanks so much, Aleš, for providing.
Thank you for inviting me.
Very good, good practice from Slovenia. And we always, Torsten, I, and all the policy learning platform, we are always here if you need any support on strategic foresight or other policy topics. So thanks so much, and see you soon.